What is up, guys? Back to break down week 6 college football. The season is rolling right along. We're getting into a good time of the year that we know a lot of these teams. Definitely going to be a fun filled Saturday. I'm actually heading over to the Tech game tonight against Notre Dame, so I'll be there. Not sure how much of the late slate I'll get to cover because the service sucks when I get over there with all those people, but I'll definitely try to get that up later on. I'll be sure to look at FanDuel. Like I say every week, I don't play over there at all, but I'll definitely check it out, see what games are on the late slate, and I'll try to go. So, or after the DraftKings game. So, if any of you all have not joined us over at Patreon, be sure to do so. We do $10 for the month for college football only if you wanted to do that, or if you want to get all of our sports, it's $20 for the month. You get access to our Discord chat, all of our sheets covering tons and tons of slates of NFL, college football, tennis, golf, MMA, I think, is early today that Kenny is covering. Soccer, we have everything going on that we are covering. So be sure to join us over there. Also, we have a promo code with Prize Picks. Use the code Jaeger to get a 100% bonus up to $100. So be sure to do that. And then lastly, we also have a promo code with Fanshare Sports. It's also promo code Jaeger. They have an optimizer for NFL and PGA. They also do ownership projections. So be sure to give them a try out at Fanshare Sports. So I'm going to hop right on in. It's a fun, like I said, a slate. I do have, and I was talking in the chat earlier, I do have a parlay. I really like the three-leg parlay, but you can do throw 4 on, because if you have access to DraftKings Sportsbook, they are giving you, let me see how they word it. It's a 25% profit boost on any 4-leg college football parlay. So if you want to do 2, just do the 3-leg parlay. I think it pays 9-1. And then there is the 4-leg that gives you the 20% boost, and that boosts all the way up to, for me, about 19.5-1. So I'll touch on those. It's all the games are on the DFS slate, so I'll touch on them as we go here. So hopping right in, we got South Carolina and Tennessee. South Carolina is a 10.5-point dog on the road in Knoxville, 57 total. This is a game that I'm not overly excited about. The South Carolina side, there's really only one play. It's Josh Vann for 4,700. The rest of South Carolina I don't really like, even though Tennessee plays super fast-paced. You're going to probably see more plays out of South Carolina than normal, but I just can't get behind anybody other than Josh Vann. On the Tennessee side, Hendon Hooker, the Virginia Tech transfer, looks to be the starter going forward now. He's fine for GPPs. We know he has quite a bit of upside with his legs. He's 7,900. That's not the best price, but he's in a very good offense that moves very quickly. So you're going to see lots of plays. Jabari Small is still questionable. And Tian Evans obviously would get a little bit of a bump if he was to miss. So that's some news that we're watching in that early game there. So really those are the only 2 options. You can pair Hooker with one of the receivers, but I don't really like it. You don't have to pair Hooker with anybody because of his rushing upside. And then Tian Evans, I wouldn't play the 2 together, Hooker and Evans, though. So Evans would probably be my top option in this game, but like I said, not one that I'm overly excited about. If you all have any questions, be sure to drop them in the chat, and I will get to them as I go here. Next, we got Oklahoma and Texas, the Red River rivalry. That has moved now to a 3.5-point total or favorite for Oklahoma, 64 total. I do lean the Oklahoma side here. I like the number a lot better at 3, but I think there's some goodness here that we can look for here in this game. On the OU side, Spencer Rattler is GPP only, I think. I mean, he's got to get a lot right to go his way um, to get there DFS wise. He's down to 8,300. I'm not in love with him. If you play him, you got to pair him with a receiver. The favorites for me would be Mario Williams, who's now priced down to 3,800. We've been on him a lot of the year. And then Marvin Mims is 4,400. Started the year, I think he's one of the highest priced receivers, but all the way down to 4,400. Those would be my two favorite options. The backfield for Oklahoma is kind of a crapshoot, so I'm staying away there. But the passing game is fine for GPPs for OU. On the Texas side, even though I lean the OU side to win the game, the Texas from a DFS perspective, Ketan Thompson is 7,400. I'm not in love with it because his arm is just frankly not that great. He does have quite a bit of rushing upside that I think they're going to need from him against this Oklahoma team today. I think they get behind. I think they start throwing it a little bit more. So that brings Bijan Robinson at 9,300. How does he get there? And really, they're going to get him involved any way that they can. I think in the passing game is going to be a way they try to do that. So that ups his floor even more. I don't think he's going to have a 200-yard rushing day by any means, but with the volume that he gets, he could definitely go over 100. We know he can score. We know he can get receiving work. So I think he's an option, but he is highly priced. Probably wouldn't play him in cash games if you're doing that. GPP only still for me, but a very high upside GPP option in a tough matchup. So on the receiving end, if you're going to pair Thompson with anybody else, I think it would be Jordan Whittington at 5,800. Xavier Worthy is kind of a big play guy at 5,000, but I do lean Whittington here. If there is more volume from Ketan Thompson, I expect that to go to the across the middle routes that Jordan Whittington is running. So that's where I would go there. This game is actually that fourth end of the parlay that I needed, that one more to make it the four leg to give me the profit boost on DraftKings. So if you're doing the four leg, it would be Oklahoma money line. And I think that I don't want to lay the 3.5. So it's minus 165 as that last piece of the parlay. Next game is also a piece of the parlay. Was one of the first few in for me. It's Arkansas and Ole Miss. Arkansas 5.5-point dog and a 66 total. This should be a very good game, I think, for DFS purposes. Arkansas is the side that I lean toward here, and they're part of the parlay. I got them money line plus 165. You could also take the 5.5 points, but I do like the money line here. And starting on that side, KJ Jefferson is one of the top QB options for me today, priced all the way down to 6,900. Gets a pretty good matchup here, even though the Ole Miss defense is a little better than they were last year. I think KJ Jefferson, with his legs in this game, is going to pose them quite a few problems. And then it becomes, who are you pairing him with? You don't necessarily have to. Again, he's a guy that has upside with his legs, but Treylon Burks, 6,300. That's a very nice mid-range stack, I believe. He's the big play guy, should get most of their volume as well. So 6,300, Treylon Burks is one of the top receiver options for me today. If you want to go a different route, Traylon Smith is 5,300. Should be the lead of that backfield, even though they mix some guys in. That's a very good price against Ole Miss. Brian Robinson torched them last week. I mean, we've seen some good rushing games from their opponents this year. So Treylon Smith is an option. If you really think they just put tons of points on the board, you could play all three together. Not sure that I'm going to do that, and I do lean toward the Jefferson Burks route there. On the Ole Miss side, we got Matt Corrales priced at $10K, which is very tough, I believe. If you do play Matt Corral, you're going to have to pair him with two receivers. Dontario Drummond, Braylon Sanders are kind of the top two options at 7,700 and 5,500. That would kind of be the first places I'm looking if I'm playing Matt Corral. Jaden Jackson is down in that 3K range. He stepped up last week with some of the injuries in that receiving core. So with Mingo out, so he is an option. You don't necessarily have to play Corral if you play him because of the value. I do like that option as kind of a run back on the Ole Miss side if you're playing the Arkansas guys that I talked about. We do have some news to watch in the backfield for Ole Miss. Ely is questionable. If he were to miss, Parrish is going to step into that lead back role at 4,800. Snoop Connor's still going to get his same work at the goal line and things. So 4,800 for Parrish would still be fine. I would be fine to go there. Yeah, Burks is quite the range. I love the mid-range options. But this is one of those legs of that parlay. So Arkansas, like I said, plus 165 on the money line is a part of the four-way parlay for me today. Next game is also in the parlay, West Virginia and Baylor. And we've got West Virginia as a 2-point dog, 44 total. I like West Virginia here. I like Letty Brown quite a bit in a pretty good matchup we've saw be exploited against Baylor the last couple of weeks. Letty Brown gets involved in the passing work, and he's only 6,500. So there's a lot of ways to get there for Letty Brown. He's kind of the focal point of this team. I really like him today at only 6,500. The passing game, I'm not really in love with it. I mean, Winston Wright could be an option, but I'm just going to lean toward Letty Brown from a DFS perspective today. This is only a 44 total, so don't need to get carried away. But West Virginia on the money line as well at plus 105 is another part of the parlay. Baylor side, Bohannon does have the rushing upside. He's 6,100. I don't really love him at all. Tyquan Thornton and R.J. Sneed are kind of the two receiving options for them, but I'm much leaning toward a fade of Baylor here, and the only part of this game that I really want is Letty Brown. I do love Letty. He gets so involved in the work, in the passing game. I'm not a guy that looks at game logs a lot, but if you look at Letty Brown's game logs, you can see if he doesn't get there from his rushing upside, like last week, Texas Tech, he got 17 carries, but he had less than 60 yards, but still got in the end zone, had 4 catches for 31 yards. That's just the extra floor of 7 points there. So let's see. The week before was kind of a bust against OU in a tough matchup. He absolutely torched my Hokies, 160 yards and a touchdown, 3 catches for 35. He's just a guy that can get there in a multitude of ways. So I do like him today in a good matchup. Moving on, we've got Maryland and Ohio State. Maryland is a 21-point dog on the road, 71.5 total here. Obviously, a very good spot for Ohio State. What week is not a good spot for Ohio State? That it's an interesting route to see where you want to go. Do you want to go the passing game? Do you want to go Travion Henderson at 7,500 in the backfield? Initially, I lean to go to Travion Henderson. 7,500 is fair. He looks to be back and healthy from all the news that I see. But GPP-wise, if you want to go toward the passing game and hope that's where they get there early, Stroud looked good last week, 9,500. I think you can definitely pair him up with one of his favorite 3 receivers, if not 2 of them. Probably 2 of them at his price you're going to need. Garrett Wilson, 6,800. Olave is the highest price at 7,600. And I think Jackson Smith and Jigba has probably the best matchup here against Maryland. So I'm going to go Smith and Jigba and then one of the other 2 if you're playing Stroud. it's always a toss-up for me between Olave and Garrett Wilson. Wilson is 6,800, so maybe you would lean there. But Olave gets tons of work in games that stay close. Necessarily, I don't think this one is going to stay close, but those are the top options for me, and really any week from Ohio State. On the Maryland side, Talia, 6K, priced way down. He's lost Dante Demas for the year. He looked horrible without him last week against Iowa. I don't know what we think there. I'm not going to play Talia, I don't think, today, even though Ohio State, I know they've improved last couple weeks, but to start the year, they were not great against the pass. We do have some value receiving options, though, as kind of a run back on the Maryland side. And it's Rakeem Jarrett, 4,100, and Jashawn Jones at 3,500. I think you got to be interested in both of those guys today with the volume that they're going to get with no Demas. I lean Jashawn Jones at 3,500. I think he's going to get a little bit more of a bump than Jarrett production for the year. So 3,500 is a very good value receiving option for me today. Next, we got the last leg of the parlay, Michigan State and Rutgers. And this is going to be laying the 4 points with Michigan State. I think that number is just too low. I think it should be closer to 7. 49.5 total. So Michigan State, like I said, is the last leg. They're laying the 4 points. Really, for Michigan State, there's only 3 options every week. It's Kenneth Walker at 8,100, Jaden Reed 74, and Jalen Naylor 6,100. I wouldn't play more than 2 of these guys. Is the way that I lean. And obviously, my top option would be Kenneth Walker at 8,100. Kind of leads this backfield and gets quite a bit of work. I expect him to do so here. Reed and Naylor are kind of the guys who can get there through volume, through the passing game, through big plays. Yeah, you can play one of them. I would lean Walker. Like I said, wouldn't play more than one in per lineup. Rutgers is kind of a cross-off for me. Bo Melton, I think, is out. I need to check that news, but he's at least highly questionable. So Brandon Sanders, maybe 3,900, but that's really not a place that I want to target. The next game is a game that I'm in love with, and everybody's going to be in love with, is Virginia and Louisville. This has big shootout potential. Louisville's a 2.5-point favorite, 69.5 total. UVA, we know they can't stop a soul from watching them to start the year. So we got to be interested. Malik Cunningham, 9,700, does it with his legs, just gets there every week, it seems, at this point. So he's the top QB option for me today. It's tough to know who to pair him with is always the dilemma with Louisville, because they don't have a high volume passing attack. Like I said, Cunningham gets there with his legs quite a bit. But Marshawn Ford, I think, at tight end would be my top option. Like I said, UVA can't stop anybody. And he's fairly priced at sub 5K. Jordan Watkins would be my top receiver out of the group, but they rotate quite a bit, and it's tough to get those guys right. Jalen Mitchell is 4,600 in the backfield for Louisville. I think he's very in play as a value running back option. Like I said, UVA just can't stop, run, pass, anything. So got to be interested at 4,600. I think you can play 3 of those guys, like a Cunningham, Mitchell, and Ford. But if you play 3 of them, you definitely got to run back. And we're going to want to run back with UVA here. They have a high volume passing game, which is kind of the opposite there from Louisville. But Brennan Armstrong, 9,200, very good option. Might be tough to throw these guys in a lineup together, but I think their ancillary options in this game are cheap enough that you can definitely do so. The top receiving threat for me with UVA is Dontavian Wicks, 7,000. Billy Kemp's more of the volume guy that's going to be the possession receiver. He's 6,500. I think he's in play. And then the one that I'm really interested in from a value perspective is we're watching some news with Jelani Woods, the big tight end target. Ketan Thompson, the transformed quarterback. I think he came from Mississippi State. He's a very good option. He's only 4,600, so he would be my favorite run back as long as we don't hear Jelani Woods is full go in pregame warmups. I'm going to check chat and take a break here. Yeah, Ford is a very good option. Like I said, my favorite receiving option for Louisville in a game that we expect to shoot out. So moving on, that's really all I got to say about that game. This is a very good option. Two not great defenses. Close spread, should be a game in the 30s or 40s. And you can play almost any option in the game except for the rushing attack for UVA because they don't run it hardly at all. Georgia and Auburn, this is a game that I might just cross off. It's Georgia's the 14.5 point favorite, 46.5 total. Georgia is so hard to get right. Auburn gets the tough matchup. So yeah, I'm just not even going to play anybody in this game. So let's move right on through it. BYU, this is an interesting one. BYU 6.5 point favorite, 58 total. We're trying to watch still some news. I think on the quarterback situation for BYU from his mouth. Jaron Hall seems good to go. I think you can go there, GPP. He does have the upside with his legs. So I think he is an option for GPPs. Not my favorite, though. This is a decent matchup. Nothing spectacular by any means. If you think Hall plays and they don't try to push him super hard, I think you can go and look at it as Algier is going to get more work at 7,800, and maybe they lean on him a little bit more in this run game. So he's definitely a top running back option, gets a lot of volume. So you can go there. The receiving deal, it just depends for me. I'm not very interested in these guys with Jaron Hall at quarterback, but if you are playing Hall, I think it makes sense to play one of these guys, Romney, Nakua, Neal. I'm not even going to try to say Powell. I don't even know how they say that one. Not very good at pronouncing that name. But those are all fine options. If you're playing Hall, I think playing one of those is fine. Like I said, you don't have to pair him with anybody because of his rushing ability. But if Hall were to miss and we got Baylor Romney, who is also questionable, so that makes it a little crazy, I would definitely up my interest in all three of those guys. Nakua would move up the board quite a bit for me at 4,200. Romney would also up quite a bit. But Algier, as of now, would be my top play from BYU. On the Boise side, I think Hank Bachmeier is not really in play for me against BYU. Really, the only guy that I'm looking at is Khalil Shakir. We look at him every week because of the volume, big playability, 7,100. I think you can go there. If you're stacking up Jaron Hall with a receiver, easy run back would be Khalil Shakir. And hope that game shoots out a little bit. So 3 more games left on the DraftKings slate. And then I'm going to pull up FanDuel and the night slate sheet, and we'll take a look at that, at what games are on there. Like I said, just don't play FanDuel quite a bit or at all. But I know there's good contests on there. It looks like I've got it up right now. Let's see here. The reason I don't is because it's all day, whether that's right or wrong. But yeah, they got a $20K to first, $9, $44 is $4K to first, which is pretty much the same as DraftKings and the $44. Yeah, there's 5 games on the slate that are on the night slate for DraftKings that are added to this one. Actually, Florida State UNC is also on the slate, and it's not on the DraftKings. So we'll touch on those here in a minute. But 3 games left on the DK slate. We got Wake and Syracuse. Wake is a 5.5-point favorite, 58.5 total. This Wake team just seems to get it done each week. A decent matchup here. I think you can definitely play a guy or two from Wake. Sam Hartman is a little too high priced for me, but I suppose you could play him in GPPs. Not one of my favorite QB options. And then favorite receiver is going to be Jaquir Roberson. 6,400 is a very good price. They've got the other guys mixed in a bit more than I thought they would to start the year. A.T. Perry, Tyler Maureen, I believe. They're fine options if you're playing Hartman. I think you probably need 2 of these guys. But Wake mixes the running back and receivers quite a bit. So Roberson is going to definitely be my favorite play on the Wake side. Syracuse, Sean Tucker gets tons of work. I think really the only way he gets there today is just because sheer volume. 7,200 is not cheap, so he's not one of my favorite running back options, but he is in play because of that volume. Garrett Schrader, they're going to run the ball with Garrett Schrader, is what it's kind of shown in the last week or two. So I think he is in play just because of the ability that he has rushing. You're going to be playing Schrader naked if you do. Overall, I'm not overly happy to play this game. Like I said, Roberson would be my top option overall, and then Tucker and Schrader maybe on the Syracuse side. Wisconsin and Illinois, this is a game that I'm not going to have one piece of. Wisconsin is an 11-point favorite, 42 total. Just make it easy on yourself. Cross that game off. Way too slow for me. Penn State and Iowa, kind of the marquee matchup as far as just regular college football is concerned. Number 3, number 4 in the country, 41-point total. So I'm not going to be overly excited to play this one either, but Iowa, a 1.5-point favorite. There's really only 2 options in this entire game. It's Jahan Dotson, 7,300, gets a lot of work for Penn State in the passing game, so I think he's in play. And then Tyler Goodson on the Iowa side, 6,700, gets a lot of work. Not a great matchup here, like I've said, but again, he's going to be a guy that gets there because of the volume, and he is sub 7K, so I think you could go there as well. So let me hop on. If there's any questions on the DraftKings slate, would I trade Dalvin Cook and Cooper Kupp for Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, Saquon Barkley? That is a very good question. So we're not talking NFL today, though. So that was kind of out of the blue, but probably not. I don't do many trades, big trades like that in NFL. Let's see here. So let me stop sharing this screen. And I'm going to share the FanDuel. Let's see here. All right. So I've got the FanDuel slate up. Let me pull up the night slate for us so I can take a look at that. All right. Sorry, guys. All right. So, first of all, we got to talk about Florida State and North Carolina. Florida State, I know, is a big dog in this game. I'm not sure the total because this is not on any slate that I've looked at. North Carolina is quite the favorite. Let's see here what that is now. All right, so North Carolina is a 17.5-point favorite and a 64 total here. Really, the only options I think for me on the North Carolina side and it's Josh Downs, which is, of course, priced at $10K on FanDuel. So really, I'm not overly enthused about this game. I mean, Sam Howell is a decent option because of his rushing ability. He's threw over 300 yards every week except Virginia Tech. So go Hokies. But he did show some rushing upside here in these two games. I think he's in play, but he is 11-2 on draft or on FanDuel, which is the third highest priced quarterback. Armstrong's cheaper. What is KJ Jefferson on here? 8,900. Oh yeah, KJ Jefferson for sure. And then Traylon Burks, I'm gonna really like this stack. I think on here too because I think they're in this mid range as well. Traylon Burks 7,900. Yes. All right, so that's where you're starting for FanDuel. It's the Arkansas stack. If you want to run it back with one of the Ole Miss guys, like I talked about earlier, Traylon or Jaden Jackson, Dontario Drummond's 92, Braylon Sanders, Mingo is probably still out. Jaden Jackson 5,500. I think it is definitely in play there. Let me check what the value plays on that. Let's see here. Maryland receiving core is over here on FanDuel. So Rakeem Jarrett is 7,500. That's not a big discount. Deshaun Jones, yeah, 5,500. I think is very in play. That leaves you 9,300 left, and I think you're going to be able to fit in one of these top price guys. But let me touch on these night games here. TCU, as of the time that I made the sheet, was a 2.5-point favorite, 61 total. I think you can definitely go here. Max Duggan is a fine option. It's always tough to know who to pair him with. Tay Barber has came on these last couple weeks. Quentin Johnson, they got him marked as questionable. Like I said, I've not done tons of research on this night slate yet. I'm trying to get the early one going, but I think Tay Barber would be the top one for me. On the other side, we've got Ezekunama, or I know I went through this the other week, Ezekuma. We're just going to call him that. Dugan's 10-2. No, that's too high for me. Man, this is kind of a tough game. Let's see here. So TCU is not good against the run, and Texas Tech is not good against the pass. So you're definitely looking at the Duggan passing attack for TCU. You're probably looking at this backfield, and I don't know what the news is here on the Texas Tech backfield because we've had some injuries. Roderick Thompson has been good these last couple weeks. I think you could go there, or the last week, that is. I think you could go there. Taj Brooks, they have him listed as questionable. And he's been out the last couple games, which has gave a boost. If he's back, maybe you could go there. Not overly enthused about anybody in this game because both teams spread it around so much. Virginia Tech and Notre Dame, like I said, I'll be there tonight. Does that make me interested from a DFS perspective? Probably not. Kind of a coin flip game as far as the spread, and a 47 total, which is actually the lowest on the late or the night slate for DraftKings. The pricing, Kyron Williams, that's probably too high price for me at 8,500 against this Tech defense, who's not good by any means, but they're not horrible. And Notre Dame just hasn't been very good running the ball all year, frankly. Michael Mayer would be the top option for me in this game at 7,300. I think you can definitely play him. They're going to score some. They're probably going to win the game. Just kind of thinking of how Virginia Tech lets me down all the time. But Michael Mayer is their top receiving option at tight end, so he's in play for sure at 7,300. On the Tech side, and I don't think you're playing Jack Cohn, 6,500, just not enough for me. Braxton Burmeister, 6,400, not really in play. I don't think he's got the upside in the passing game. He's always going to be in that this 15-point range. I think that he's been all year there on FanDuel. So he's not in play. The backfield's a mess with Holston, Blackshear. Never know who's going to get the work there. And then the receiving core is just not in play for me in this matchup. Tavian Robinson and Trey Turner. So that's not a game that I would ever touch on FanDuel other than Michael Mayer with all these other games during the day. Maybe I would get a little exposure on the night slate to Michael Mayer on DraftKings there. Michigan, Nebraska. This is an interesting one. Nebraska, big game for them as a 2.5-point dog, 50-point total. I think you got to be interested in the backfield for Michigan and the Nebraska. Both of those are very Nebraska overall. Torrey, Oliver Martin, going to get quite a bit of volume there. Adrian Martinez is 9,200. That's a little high against Michigan. But you could go to the backfield. Ramir Johnson has moved ahead as the starting back for them. Doesn't get a very good matchup, but for Michigan, Blake Corum and Hassan Haskins get most of the work there in the backfield. I think you could definitely play Corum, but he is 8,900. LSU and Kentucky. Let's see here. Kentucky is a 2.5-point favorite, 51 total. Chris Rodriguez is 9,000. I think he's very in play. Butte is always in play as well. Wandell Robinson has moved ahead these last couple weeks and really took control of the receiving work for Kentucky. I think you can play him, but he's 8,400. That's kind of you'd have probably need to or want if you play Levis, you're going to want to play one of those guys. This is not an overly exciting game from FanDuel for the FanDuel all day slate either. Just a couple pieces led by Rodriguez. Alabama and Texas A&M is the nightcap there. Alabama is the favorite, of course, at 18 points, 50.5 total. So not very many points expected here. Bryce Young is 10,000, not going there. Brian Robinson, 8,800. Not overly excited about that. Probably one of the passing pieces for Alabama. Jamison Williams or Mechie are fine options. But overall, those later games on the FanDuel slate are not really what I would be excited about. It's going to be the OU Texas. It's going to be the Arkansas Mississippi. It's going to be the Ohio State. And it's going to be UVA Louisville on that slate as well. And that's kind of would be my starting point. So if there are, let's see, lineup construction, double QB. I'll answer for both sites. It would definitely be double QB for me. Always on these bigger slates, it's almost always double QB. I'm going to pull up DraftKings and play around with my build on there. I've done that a little bit this morning, so let me pull that up for you guys. Okay. All right. So we know my top options here. We got Arkansas is kind of where I'm starting today, which is a little different. We got Traylon Burks with Jefferson paired up. And then we got, let's see here, in the backfield. I think that's a spot that I'm going to come back to because there's quite a few decent options that I'm fine with playing, but it's always what can I fit? I think Bijan Robinson would be a top option. Kenneth Walker is fine. Algier is fine. Travion Henderson, a top option. Like I've talked about, Letty Brown is probably where I'm going to end up starting at 6,500. So let's plug him in. And then the second back I'll come back to. Let's see. We're going to want pieces of this Louisville and Virginia game. So if you pull that up, you're probably going to start, if you're playing Jefferson with one of these QBs, which side do you want? Eileen Cunningham, Personally, if you want to pair him up with Marshawn Ford, you can definitely do so. That leaves you 52-66. So some of these value receiving options is where you're going to need to go. So I know that kind of gets rid in this build of some of the top priced receivers, but so I could definitely see the running backs, the top running backs, doing better than these receivers today. So we're going to need to come down into the value bin in the receiving options, and we got Cunningham paired with Ford. I've said as a run back, what I really like on that Virginia side is going to be Ketan Thompson at 4,600. So that leaves you 5,600 for a running back and a flex. And then you've got still very good value receiving options. You've got, let's see here, Jeshaun Jones. You've got Jaden Jackson for Ole Miss. And either one of those work for sure. If you want to go to the run back of Jaden Jackson, let's see. So last week he got more targets in that game. Obviously, it was the first one that he had really stepped into a role. If you play Jaden Jackson, you got to make sure that Mingo is out. He's fine. I do lean Jeshaun Jones at 3,500, thinking he's going to get a bigger role. That leaves you any option in the running back pool from 7,700 and down, 7,500 down. Travion Henderson, Sean Tucker, Tian Evans, Tyler Goodson. Any of those are top options. So that's kind of where I'm looking at from a build today. I said one of the fun stacks for GPPs it would be Stroud. So I do like that option. So if you play Stroud, you're going to need 2 receivers, which makes it a little tougher. You're probably not going to play Ford if you're not playing Cunningham. Fine. So Stroud, I said I like Jackson, Smith and Jigba, 5,300. And then it's either, like I said, Garrett Wilson or one of the others. Then you got 41 for a running back. Take out Ketan Thompson. For Jeshaun Jones, you got the run back there in that stack. Then you got 5,200 with Letty Brown. Not the best spot to be in, but you can play Henry Parrish if we get that news on the Ole Miss backfield. So that's just the GPP pivot that I would look at there. If you played Parrish, then you could probably take out Letty Brown even and get up to 6,900 at running back. That would get you to Tian Evans, Tyler Goodson, some of those options. So that's where I'm looking at today. My core as of now is kind of like I said, it's going to be so let me get Letty back in there. I try to post this some weeks in the chat. So we got Malik Cunningham is in my core for now, and I'll leave 3 spots open. So this would be Ford. That would be my core for now. Jefferson to Burks, Cunningham to Ford, and then Letty Brown in the backfield for West Virginia. So are there any more questions, or I'm going to hop on off here. Hope I answered any questions that you did have. Be sure to join us in the Discord, and we will I'll be sure to get to any questions before lock. We still got an hour, 45 minutes. So good luck to everybody today. Like I said, I'll be kind of out of the office, if you would say, later on today. But I'll still be around my phone as much as I can to answer any questions you have on the night slate. So good luck to everybody, and let's have a good Saturday.